Hello, let's take a look at generative AI and how it might be helpful in practicing a foreign language. So we'll start with ChatGPT, later we'll look at Bard and Bing. Here I have a prompt. I'm a student in Chicago learning Polish. Speak Polish to me and ask me questions about Chicago. I will try to answer you. Make sure to correct my language if I make a mistake. Now, the generative AI is very forgiving, so I already made a mistake by saying is instead of if, but let's see how this will work out. And in Polish, the response is, of course, let's get started. How are you? What do you like the most about Chicago? And my response here is, I like the big lake the best. It is shallow and small. All right, so now the response is, it's true, Lake Michigan is a beautiful place in Chicago, but I have to straighten out one thing. Lake Michigan is one of the five Great Lakes and one of the biggest in the world. So then it follows up with a question, do you have any other places in Chicago? And so I responded, yes, Museum of Art, what do you know about it? And I get a nice response about the Museum of Art. Now, this is a nice way to continue the conversation in a foreign language and then be prompted, be corrected. So there are factual corrections, and as we'll see later, generative AI can also correct spelling and grammar. So let's switch to Bard, and here I posted the same prompt. Now, Bard took a little bit different approach. It provided the translation in English for each of the sentences. So, of course, for a student, that might be of benefit. And we probably could have adjusted the prompt so that ChatGPT would that as well. But that's one difference. Another difference that Bard provides in this conversation that it has the capacity to read images and then read the text back. So I can click and then have the text read back. But let's say about this conversation. So I said, I think Chicago is too big and too tall. And so there's a nice response explaining some of the details. So there's a conversation, there's some exchange of thoughts. Now, in my next response, I say, do I write well in Polish? And the word well is misspelled. So the response is yes, you write fairly well. Your grammar is good. Your style is understandable. But there was an error. The word dobrze was misspelled, and so it provides me here with a correct spelling. So because we specified in the prompt, we want to be corrected, right? That allows AI to bring that as a learning lesson instead of just moving on, because if we misspell things for generative AI, it kind of assumes that we're imperfect and we just kind of run with it. All right, so now I also uploaded an image that was quite complex. This happens to be in real life a very large picture, so a lot of things going on. And so I asked about the picture, and it identified the picture fairly well. That was kind of tricky because I suggested that a king who did not fight in that battle, but a well-known Polish king, should be somewhere in the picture. And so I ended up correcting AI, and it said, oh yeah, you're right. That king wasn't born until much later on. But it stayed within the context, the historical context of the picture. It identified the picture well. And at some point I uploaded a very specific part of the picture, and it was able to identify it well. So the Google Bard system does excel in being able to accept pictures and then have conversations about them. But what I really like about Bard is when I told it, say it in Polish. So it explained here all about the picture, and I did ask in English, right? So that's why the response came in English as well. It provided very good translation, and then let's listen to Bard read it to us.
Został przedstawiony na koniu z mieczem w ręku, co sugeruje, że jest dowódcą wojskowym. Obraz jest również osadzony na polu bitwy, co dodatkowo potwierdza tę interpretację.
All right, so this is a very good Polish pronunciation. It's fluent. It's not as robotic as they used to be. So a very nice way for a student to get not only writing skills but also some listening comprehension on top of it. So now let's switch to Bing. Now Bing has its own kind of niche at the moment. A few months from now, they all probably will do the same functionality. But right now, Bing is able to generate images. So here I just said, create an image of traditional Polish dance. And hey, it came up with, it didn't find these pictures, it generated the pictures, which means that it gave the kind of a general feel for what Polish dance would be, the color set. If you look really carefully in the first picture, which is kind of normal for art generated by AI, the front dancer here appears to have more legs than necessary. And then in this picture, there are some male dancers in female costumes. But that's the nature of generating pictures. It can be very, very useful for some simple situations, and of course, it's fun to do. So now let's take it a level up. What we demonstrated so far was a prompt that a student would use. And by the way, as an instructor, if you have a beautiful prompt where you provided maybe context for your course, you can say to generative AI, I am a student in this course, this is the course description, this is what we want to learn about, and that will carve part of this intelligence in this context so that anything else you ask follows the context. And then you can share the chat. See, you end up with a link, you copy the link, and you can put that link right in your course so that students will regenerate that chat. They will jump right into that context. So that's a nice way to carefully prep something and then include it right in your course as a shortcut for students so they don't have to copy and paste. They just jump into the conversation. But let's see the kind of level 2 conversation. What I'm demonstrating now is a prompt that is supposed to craft prompt. So it's a prompt crafting prompt. And the prompt starts by saying, hey, your goal is to help my needs. So one of the things that ChatGPT does well is it answers questions. But what about how do we ask questions? How can we clarify our own thoughts? How can we improve the question that we are trying to ask? Well, this is the kind of prompt, because what it will do is it will take us through multiple steps of clarifying our thoughts, asking follow-up questions. All right, so step number 1, your first response will be to ask me what the prompt should be about. All right, then based on my input, you will generate 3 sections, a revised prompt. So this is where we will have a new version of our prompt. We'll have some suggestions and follow-up questions. And then we will continue this iterative process with me providing additional information to you and you updating the prompt in the revised prompt section until it's complete. So this is an ongoing improvement process so that we end up with a clear prompt that fits what it is we try to ask initially. So we are getting started. This is my base prompt, and this is the base prompt that I used in all 3 systems. So the response was, thank you for providing the initial input. Let's work on refining the prompt for your needs. And so it suggests to say it like this: speak Polish to me and ask me questions about Chicago. Correct my language if I make a mistake. And it beautifully corrected my little spelling error there and worded in a very simple way. Now, here are suggestions. You might specify the complexity or difficulty level for the Polish you'd like me to use. Okay. It's essential to clarify if you want me to focus on specific aspects of Chicago. Excellent. And do you want me to incorporate specific grammar or vocabulary exercises related to Polish language? Now, we could ask Well, what are my options? Give me examples of these grammar exercises and vocabulary exercises. So doors are open for generative AI to clarify any of this for us. And so I added to the prompt. So I'm a student. Please use basic level of the language. Make sure to cover specific topics about Chicago as a tourist point of interest. Make sure to correct my spelling and Polish grammar. All right. So the reverse prompt as it came back is this now. I'm a student in Chicago, and this we prompted in English. Now it switched to Polish. I'm a student in Chicago learning English, Polish language. Speak with me in Polish. Ask me about Chicago. I'll try to answer. Correct my errors, both spelling and grammar. Let's focus on basic level of the language and show me interesting tourist places, or let's talk about interesting tourist places. So now it's asking me again, let's improve this prompt, and it can provide more comprehensive learning experience by specifying tourist points of interest that we know about. So we could, talk about the lake or tall buildings and so forth. All right, then it says you might consider instructing me to provide explanations and additional information when correcting mistakes to aid you in learning. Very nice suggestion. If you have specific vocabulary phrases related to Chicago you like to practice, feel free to mention them. And so we could add some local slang or expressions. Anyway, this is an approach to basically creating a better prompt, having a conversation with AI so that it's asking us questions and we can clarify our own thoughts and also explore what's the capacity of AI while creating this prompt. Well, thank you.